Before we get into the mass distribution, there was one other thing I wanted to show you with regards to the volume groups. And this was with regard to when you're building the volume groups. And we talked about it a little bit the other day. When you come in here, we're building a volume group. I'm not going to bother giving it a name because we're not going to keep it. And you don't have to do this one. This is just so you see it. But I had mentioned about removing an interior bulkhead from a tank. So if we create that tank and view it, the inside of that tank, if we shrink the elements, you can see there's that longitudinal floor that's cutting this into two complete tanks, the inboard and the outboard versions. Now, if we clean this up manually, and I'll use the box delete here to clean off a bunch of this from the top. If you know that it's there and you need to get rid of it, because let's say this was supposed to be one big tank, but we didn't model the small lightning holes in that floor. We don't want those internal elements in there because they're going to take pressure. We might consider this a full tank, but if you have internal surfaces in there, one side or the other is going to be available to take pressure, and it will. So we want to get rid of that. Now, if you have a piece of it sticking from outside the tank, you can always click on that and do add by seed, and that'll grab everything inside the tank and get rid of it. And I've had to do that a number of times when I had basically solid transverse floors in a tank. I would do that before I finish cleaning up, because if you don't, so I didn't delete those, but if you don't do that and you finish cleaning up the tank, when you go to do like peel internals, that cleans up a lot of things at the boundaries. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all of this stuff at the edges here. And that looks like what we want for the tank. And if we try and do pressure side and consistent pressure side, that all seems to work just fine. But when we shrink elements, we still have that internal bulkhead. You might think you can come in here to delete it by clicking between, but it always wants to grab one of the other pieces here. So usually what I'll wind up doing is click on that, click on an interior one, put that piece back, and then add by seed. And you can get rid of that interior bulkhead. But peel internals will not work if you have a complete bulkhead inside the tank. So that's going to happen. It's sometimes easier to grab a piece that's outside and use the add by seed and delete it before it ever gets built into the tank. So I'm going to delete that tank. Although we could leave it there, it wouldn't matter because it's not in the load case. We didn't add it to our load condition here, and it doesn't get added automatically. We only have the ones that we've already added here. So we could leave this. It's just an extra group. Now, had we deleted any of the other tanks, they would get deleted from the load case automatically. And I don't believe there's any warnings. So if you deleted one of these tanks and recreated it, you'd need to re-add it to the load case. You could edit it and change the shape or size of the tank, and it'll just update in there as long as it always existed. If you delete one of these tanks, even if you recreate it with the same name, you'll have to add it back to the load case.